this is Andy Mosher with Deadwood Alive. We've got another little story to tell you today about some of the new stuff that we've got coming up this coming summer. Well, spring too. Got Ty Sanford here with me again. If you remember, last week we talked about the firearms of the Civil War era around that period of time. Well, we're going to be running a series during the summer months that where we'll talk about the clothing of a particular era and the firearms of that particular era. Since we talked about the firearms last week, let's talk about the clothing this week. Now, what have we got here, Ty? You look all pretty fancy. What are you wearing here? What era is this?
I'm representing a 7th Cavalry Sergeant from Fort Meade around 1878.
Around 1878. Now, Deadwood had their big rush in 1876, so you might have seen this around here very early on in Deadwood's history. It looks pretty fancy there. Is it all pretty accurate?
Yeah, it is.
Well, let's just start at the bottom and work our way up. And tell us about what you got on here, Ty.
All right. I got a taller riding boot on. It helps. The thicker leather helps you protect your lower legs if you're riding through like chaparral, spiky brush, things like that. The trousers are an 1876 model trouser. Custer's men in 76 were documented with putting seat reinforcement on there. So they would find canvas or flour sacks and they would put an extra seat reinforcement on there. Because riding a saddle, and especially those old McClellan saddles, they could tear through your pants pretty quick, so they like to have that extra layer of protection on there.
So that's not just a style thing?
No, it is very functional.
Well, I heard that Custer, he liked to dress things up a little bit and make things a little more stylish.
Well, General Custer did like to be a little bit of a flair for the dramatic. Yeah. Well, when you're an officer, you get to pick your wardrobe a lot more than what any of us NCOs or enlisted guys can, that's for sure.
So you're not going to be out there wearing a fringed leather outfit, huh?
No, I wouldn't be.
No, okay. Well, what else have you got here? What's this coat?
Well, we'll go back to the trousers here in just a moment. Well, you'll notice I have a yellow stripe on the side. The stripe is denoting both my rank and branch of service. Since it's yellow, it's denoting that I'm a member of the cavalry, and at 1 inch wide, it's denoting that I have the rank of sergeant.
So does that get wider as you get a higher rank, or?
You have a 1/2 inch for corporals, you have 1 inch for sergeants, and then once you get into the officer corps, it goes down to a narrow kind of...
like a piping kind
piping,
of thing?
That's the word.
Okay. All right. So you can tell just by looking at somebody from a distance what branch of service they're in, and if you know it well enough, you can tell kind of roughly what rank they are.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, that's pretty cool. What do they call this? Is that a coat?
Yeah, it's a sack coat or a fatigue blouse. This one is an 1874 model. So the coat you would have seen me wearing last week would have been something up to the 1858 regs. In 1872, the U.S. Army decided they wanted to change things around a little bit, and they actually went with a pleated blouse, which didn't work out so well. So 2 years later, in 1874, they decided to change it for this, and they kept this for about 11 years until they made another change in 1885.
Now I'm guessing that the yellow means the same thing, that it's, is it gold or yellow?
Yellow.
Yellow. That means cavalry, correct?
Correct.
And the ranking?
Well, 3 stripes denotes a sergeant, and the lozenge on top denotes the rank of first sergeant.
So you're getting up there a little bit. You're kind of in charge of a bunch of guys, huh?
Yeah, the officer in command would go to me to form work parties to make sure things are getting done. Administrative duties, things like that as well.
Okay, all right. Now tell me about the hat. What do they call that thing?
This is a kepi.
Kepi. Mm-hmm. All right, it got an emblem up there. What's that say?
It's got the cross sabers, again, that denotes cavalry, and then it has a regimental number on top, 7 for the 7th Cavalry, and it has a company number, or company letter below it for A. So it's A Company, 7th Cavalry, United States Cavalry.
All right. Now I noticed you got a whole bunch of other stuff on you there. Certain things you gotta have if you're in the service doing stuff. Can you tell me a little bit about the rest of the stuff you got strapped on there?
Strapped on.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, you can't go anywhere without a good pair of gauntlets. This helps protect your hands. You're out there riding and shooting. You got a nice little bit of wear on them. They've seen a little bit of service. I'll hand those to you. You get to hold on to some stuff.
All right.
Now, after the Civil War, there was a lot of surplus gear left around. So they took some of the old cap pouches, which you would have seen me wearing in last week's video from the Civil War.
For the percussion caps are put on?
Caps, yeah. And they modified them to be pistol cartridges, so they could hold the metallic pistol cartridges that you see with the modern firearm. So this is surplus Civil War. Along with the holster, they did do a redesign on some of them, but again, there was so much surplus, and we're out here kind of on frontier posting, so we don't always get the latest and greatest, which I'm sure a lot of guys in the Army might appreciate that. So again, this is a Civil War era style flap holster, but I do have, well, this one's a non-firing replica, but Cavalry was issued the model 1873 Colt single action Army, and a 7.5-inch barrel, so I have that as well.
Now, why is that facing the wrong direction?
Well, it's not really facing the wrong direction.
Okay.
You would carry, per regulations, right hip butt forward for your personal sidearms.
Why is that?
Well, they intend you to draw your saber with your right hand so that you can fight with your saber. And if you need to, you can come draw left hand, a cross draw, and hold your pistol in your left hand. Or alternatively, it's not difficult to draw and fire with the hand like that as well.
So there is a reason for having it facing butt forward like that. I kind of figured there would be.
It's a lot easier to draw while you're mounted as well.
Yeah. All right. Now you pulled your saber out there. Let's look at that again.
Yeah.
I like that. Tell me a little more about that.
This is a model 1860 light cavalry saber. They used this well into the Indian Wars up until about the turn of the century. It was a good design. If it ain't broke, why fix it?
And they actually would use those from horseback. Boy, that sounds pretty dangerous.
Yeah, it's a little bit dangerous, but there was a lot of drill that went into saber training.
Yeah. Now, did most everybody carry one of those in the cavalry?
Yes. It wasn't just something limited to officers or non-commissioned officers.
I think it kind of went that way later on, though, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's pretty slick. Now, we're going to be talking more about this type of stuff throughout the spring shows. We're going to start on the weekends in the middle of March, all the way through our summer season, and then we're going to be doing it in the fall on the weekends too. We're going to be running this series where we'll talk about the clothing of an era, and the same day we'll talk about the firearms of that era. So you can come and check things out. We'll have lots of clothes like this. Next week I think we'll talk about a little different era and give you a little sneak peek into that as well. Now, if you're really interested in this type of stuff, you can check out, is it fortmeadmuseum.org? Check them out online, or go visit the Fort Meade Museum. They've got all kinds of cool stuff there to see, and you'll see things just like this, original things as well as reproductions. It's a really cool area. There's lots of neat things to see, and it's a huge part of this area. Everybody's heard of General Custer, so they were all out in this area, and they celebrate that at the museum as well. For more information about what we've got going on and what's going on in Deadwood in general, you can check out our website at deadwoodalive.com. You can go to the chamber at deadwood.com. You can look at deadwoodhistory.com. All the museums got all kinds of cool stuff as well here in Deadwood. And check out outlawsquare.com. They got all kinds of cool activities coming up, and you can maybe learn a little bit more about skating on plastic. That sounds like a lot of fun. Well, anyway, thank you so much for joining us, folks. Check out all this stuff that we've got going on. Come and see us this spring, summer, and fall. We'll be telling you more about this kind of stuff. Get up here to Deadwood, be looking for us, and we'll be looking out for you.